And so I had the opportunity to just think about my actions in the past, present, and in the future. And I honestly say that has and always will be like my catalyst for growth is self-reflection. And I promise anybody who sits down in silence and self-reflects will ultimately become the best version of themselves and match their potential now. All right, that's cool.
Cool. All right, awesome.
I might say a lot of outrageous things.
That works. That works. What's going on? All right, I might have to do mine as well a couple times. Gotta get warmed up. I missed a week last week, so I gotta rewarm myself. All right. Hi, my name is Gavin. We are back on another episode of Sometime-ish. This is a podcast where sometimes we talk about life, sometimes we talk about business, sometimes we talk about current events, but all the time you will be entertained, informed, and you will want to tune in for another episode. I am here with a very special guest, Timothy Robertson. It's a very, very wise man here. For the people who don't know, who is Timothy Robertson?
Timothy, wow. You know, every time I get asked that question, I feel like it changes. You know, hopefully it does change from here. But Timothy Robertson is a entrepreneur born in Baltimore, Maryland. Went to school in DC and now I would call DC my home pretty much. I do design branding for companies. I help companies pretty much position themselves aesthetically for success. I love wine. I love travel. I love good music, you know. I guess that's another part that people just don't know about me is that I actually went to college on a band scholarship. So I'm in love with music and just the arts and entertainment. But that's Timothy in like 3 short sentences.
3 short sentences. Absolutely. We'll definitely get into that. Something that's, I would say, most inspiring about you is definitely your love of travel and your ability to like do it so well and work while you do it. You kind of were one of the first people I knew who were able to successfully do the whole, you know, I guess you referred to it as a digital nomad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the term, but that's exactly what it is. Just because there's so many people that do it, but you know, what does it really mean, right? But yeah, as you were saying, like, you know, I've been working from my laptop for about 6 years now, maybe. And yeah, it's just, I get the chance to travel full time, to go from city to city or state to state, country to country. And I think what I'm trying to do now is like create a headquarters and like a New York, and make that a hub so that I can pretty much like sit all of my like things there in New York or have my connections or my base in New York and then easily travel out to different countries. And, you know, JFK Airport, they have 3 airports in New York. So it's just pretty easier to travel from there. And yeah, the goal is like now to expand the brand as I travel. So making a business out of travel as well. Yeah, I mean, it's I think in my younger days, it was probably less formal and it was just more like waking up and like, hey, I feel like moving. But now I think I'm trying to be way more strategic about it, which I think everyone should do.
For sure. How did you get started?
Ooh, you want the real story or the fake story?
Give us the real story.
You want the real story or the business story? So
maybe give us both.
Okay, so the first part, I got a retainer from a marketing company. They paid me per month to do like websites and graphic design, and so that pretty much covered all of my bills. And then beyond that, I would have to find like other gigs just to support myself, which was fine with me.
And how long ago was this? This is like when
this
you first
was
started?
When I was like 2021.
Okay.
What was that? 5 years, 6 years. So I had that going, and I was working in DC, and then I started dating a girl.
So all good stories start, right?
That's how every man's story started. Well, I was dating a girl, and then this happened, and so yeah, she wanted to not live in DC and just move across the country. And was I madly in love? Somewhat, I guess, if I was willing to move with her
Right.
at that age. And so, yeah, I was willing to move with her. So I remember calling on my clients, being like, yeah, I'm going to California. And they're like, okay, like why? What are you doing out there? Like, do you know people out there? I'm like, not really. I just wanted to go, and I didn't want to tell them about the real reason, but I told them I wanted to go, and then everyone became supportive of the move. You know, when we were about to make that transition and trying to coordinate it, it kind of fell through. But at that time, I was already letting go of my lease in DC, and I think I was fine with it because again, like I had the retainer to cover like my basic bills, and so a crazy idea came up in my head was just like, let me not renew my lease, let me Airbnb full time, and every week just book a different Airbnb in a different city, hopefully, and just take my car and just be on the road. And so I did that like a year and a half. That's how I started. And then it just became like, you know, we were still in contact, but I started just traveling alone. And I remember being in Ohio, which was the first city I went to. And from there, it just dawned on me, like, go further. Like, just don't stop here. Don't stop at something like Ohio. And I was like, do I have a passport? I checked my pockets. I'm like, yeah, I got my passport. Because I think I went to Mexico like the year before. I'm like, forget it. I'm going to Toronto. So I take the car from Ohio after a few days, go to Niagara Falls, stay, and then go to Toronto and stay for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And that just opened up my eyes to like the world. Cause, you know, I couldn't just drive back home to Baltimore and go see my family. I'm like 12 hours away from home. I didn't know anybody. I remember getting pulled over in Ohio, and the dude was like, I forgot what was wrong. Something was wrong with my license. They like, I should take your car. He was like, what are you doing up here though? I'm like, I'm looking at places. I'm all by myself, sir. Like, please don't do something crazy. He's like, what I'm going to tell you right now is I'm going to give you 2 tickets. Drive slow from here because I realize you don't have anybody out here. And then, you know, certain moments like that just really sprung on me like, yo, I really don't have anybody out here. Like, I really am doing something kind of risky, kind of crazy. And for some reason, that just propelled me to want to do it more, like that rush.
How much, I think the rush is important. How much of that do you think actually influenced you as like a creative and in the campaign?
Oh, everything. It was everything. I wouldn't have the company, I wouldn't have the wisdom or knowledge that I had today without that experience at all. I mean, it makes you grow up and mature fairly quickly. I'm not the super like social person I can be, which everyone I think kind of sees me present, because I'm a good presenter. And I think I had to learn that skill of like, I'm naturally an introvert, but when I'm out there in the world, I have to present and be on point, vigilant, and always aware. And I just picked up on like awareness, like a very keen sense of awareness from traveling so much. Because again, like if you have nobody there and you're amongst just new environments every other week, you don't know, who's watching you, who's following you, and things like that. So I just learned to be like really vigilant and very observant from that experience.
Absolutely. And just kind of pick up everything from your environment. How did you manage all of like your workload as you're traveling? Because I'm sure were you still like doing things at the time? Were you going out, or were you okay?
But the thing is, I wasn't going out like consistently.
Okay.
I mean, I love like working from my laptop. Like that's my safe place. So I mean, honestly, I would spend like 10 to 12 hours a day on a laptop. If I had time to go out, I would. Managing was pretty easy. I guess I would do coffee shops for the most part, and then I got back onto WeWork, but they didn't have the WeWork All Access Pass before like COVID and things. But All Access, basically, I can book any office in the world, and just key card access 24 hours, which is pretty cool. But before that, I would just do like coffee shops, work out in the park if it was like summertime. plug up at restaurants, things like that.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a very good time. Right? A very, very interesting lifestyle. What exactly were you doing for clients? So can you just kind of explain your business model for the people who don't know what exactly you do for clients? And, you can get as
Very
specific
simple.
or as broad as you like.
I keep it very simple.
Okay.
People call me for websites.
Okay.
They say, like, I have a new company, I have a new brand, I need a website or a logo or something like that. What I got really good at, though, is saying, okay, you need a website. Now let's diagnose the business and see what you really, really need. And so I was able to walk away with gigs with more than a website. And so essentially it would be website, but websites can contain graphic design, imagery, photography. It contains sometimes some custom code, integrations, just the brand identity, logos. So it was actually beautiful to be called in to do websites because I could go ahead and just pitch everything else creatively. And so, yeah, it's just mainly websites we get called in for. But then we walk away with larger contracts or projects to just develop the brand more holistically. And that includes anything from a logo to the photography to marketing campaign, social media ads, things like that.
Okay, so you do just about everything.
Yeah. These days, though, we're focused on web development. And between me, you, and the entire world and podcast world, consulting is next.
Okay.
So we had a successful run at the end of this year in Q4 with consulting. And we're finding that to be high value for any company that we work with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're just consulting them on their marketing or just consulting them on anything?
Marketing and technology for sure. So we're focused on MarTech. So we're trying to, you see everything coming out these days, with NFTs, for AR, VR, but it's not fit for every business, but it is really valuable for others. So we're just trying to instruct clients on how to use technology that's coming out, this emerging technology specifically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you first got started, where were you getting your original clients from, or where are you getting clients from now mostly?
When you start in freelance and especially creatively, it's all word of mouth. I mean, some people are really good at using social, which could have worked out well for me. But I've got it mainly from word of mouth, just from because if you consult, that means you're having a conversation. And so people got a chance to know me way more and way better. And so they felt comfortable including their friends in on that conversation the next time. And then the next time, somebody else in that conversation, things like that. So it just came from networking. And then I would say secondary, mentors and advisors, just supporting me. And, if they have friends in networks, starting businesses, ex-corporate executives, a lot of the times will always go out and start their own companies and consulting companies. It's just a thing. They always do it. And so their friends would just be like, yeah, I got a reliable guy. And then that's me, that guy.
Gotcha. What has been your biggest client so far? And do you focus on bigger clients, or you focus on smaller clients? What is?
I was never really, before this year, I wasn't focused on bigger clients, to be honest. I guess who's the biggest and who I get the most work from is an agency here in DC.
Okay.
A lot of our work, it's the 80-20 rule. A lot of our work comes from that larger agency. But we've had the conversations, so I've basically organized myself and my company to have conversations to be more on a partner level at that company. So we're going into meetings together at this point. And so it's a co-partnership, co-business development deal that we have kind of going on.
Gotcha. Whereas you're the expert and they're they have the contact and you're the expert.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, we're working on one big national project.
Okay.
It's under wraps.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
I can talk very small about it because it's under development, but it's for Comcast.
Okay.
National.
Congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely. I know how hard you work, so it's good to see you doing anything you can, right? Just winning. So
let me not rock, but yeah, it's been tough, but worth it, I would say. Very tough.
I can imagine. Yeah. How was it when COVID first started? Did you see things slow down? Was there a big pickup for you? And in your industry, what would you
Mm,
consider? I'm gonna flip back to that question, but what
it's a
industry
good
would you
question.
like consider yourself in? By the way.
We're definitely like marketing. You know, it changes these words. It's a lot of buzzwords in the marketing industry,
Right. It's
but
confusing to like navigate for an outsider.
yeah, yeah, because now we might be considered like Marcom,
Hmm.
marketing communications.
Okay.
But marketing tech would be where we would position ourselves.
Okay.
And that's anything like outward facing, client facing, customer facing, and like customer engagement and experience wise, we try to be in. So that can be designing like user interfaces, UX apps, things that your clients or your customers would touch.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. That clarifies a lot. I think. And then to jump back in regards to like the COVID conversation, I think everyone is always interested in how did that affect your industry, your business itself, and maybe even you as a person.
The marketing industry has thrived in COVID.
Okay.
Literally has thrived.
Mm.
Business went down sharply for like a good 2 months.
Okay.
And then it blew up. That was it.
And it just never stopped. It just
No, it never stopped.
okay. That's a good problem to have, right?
It never stopped. I don't think it will stop.
Okay.
And when you're in technology, like everyone's reliant on technology right now. That's it. Consumer spending is out of the roof. Like it's insane right now, especially for like consumer products, packaged goods, beverages, food. Um, Amazon thrived in COVID, and so again, like companies were trying to capture that new consumer spending and just using our reserves to capture it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an investment that they didn't know would pay off or not. And those who invested in virtual transactions are doing very well these days. And so it's still not over. Like I'm still organizing, honestly, so that we can pick up some of the larger companies and deals that are out there actually, because we don't see it slowing down.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Where do you see kind of your business going in the next 2 to 5 years? I know you mentioned you added on the consulting piece. What do things look like for you over the next like decade or so?
Education, consulting.
Okay.
It's I'm a strong believer in that education. I've been reading mounds of research and reports, systems, processes, and some of the most profitable companies to this date, profit wise. Yeah, you have packaged goods companies, you have commodities, but then you have consulting companies like a McKinsey and Deloitte's and things. You know that billable hours and billable rates
Mm-hmm.
don't make sense. They're lopsided. And it's simply because the value is so high. Although it may seem like minimal input, the value of their input far exceeds the output exceeds the amount of input that's needed. And so I just foresee becoming a large consulting company on behalf of larger companies and agencies, just to direct them on like what technologies they should be using. So just doubling down on consulting, yes, educating our clients, but introducing them to these emerging technologies is another like place to really capture a lot of value and growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might be, yes, teaching you AR and that VR exists and that is good for your company, but that's also like helping you deploy that technology in your company. And deployment and like these big companies takes months, if not years. And so these are really long contracts. But you have to be like, we would have to be set up to even engage that company for that amount of time with that level of talent, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be a couple years of building it out, but the educating the clients on new technology, specifically marketing technology, and then helping them deploy it, I mean, will probably be the main source of our profit in the next 5 years.
Why do you think companies aren't necessarily good at doing that themselves? Like, why do you think they're so heavily reliant on consultants?
It's resource intensive.
Okay.
I mean, that means you going to hire a researcher full time. Somebody then has to go. Then you have to manage that researcher, which means you got to go hire a manager too to manage something that may not pay off in the long run, which is the research on some emerging technology. And so it's just easier to pay an outside company who's set up to do the research, interviews, help you find strategic partners, even run some tests and experiments. Like, they're already set up. You don't have to go build a new department. And it just saves you a lot of time and money. And so it's about like access and convenience at that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of things you say, they're very like forward. You know, we've had conversations and it's always, it's crazy to hear.
Forward.
Like,
what does that mean?
The way you're able to, I think, compartmentalize information and kind of project over the landscape and say, okay, I think this is going to happen. And I think this makes sense. And this doesn't make sense. I think is probably one of your best qualities. If you know, that I know of you as a person. Like, take us back a little bit. When you were young, growing up, what were some of your, like, how does this story kind of start? You know, like, what are some of your influences? How does this, you know, you're born in Baltimore, right? A kid born in Baltimore to where you are now. What are, you know, kind of just take us through that journey a little bit.
You know, for me, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was a kid. I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur since I was a kid. You know, I think it really started at 13, about 13, 8th grade going into high school, when I was playing the trumpet at my dad's church, and they couldn't pay me because I was under 14 or 15, whatever the legal law age is. And at the end of the year, they gave me like a $50 gift card, Visa, like prepaid gift card. And I remember at that time, I'm like, man, like, should I go get some shoes? What shoes even cost $50? Maybe some Vans at that time. I'm like, nah, I can't even cover the cost of Vans. But like, let me actually get something that I actually wanted before, that I'm really interested in, that's just uniquely me. At that time, I bought a Palm Pilot with the $50 from eBay. And so that's like the handheld computers before the smartphone. I think the iPhone was just coming out that year or the year before, something like that. And so like smartphones were pretty new. And so I took the Palm Pilot to school, and everybody like, dang, you get on the internet from that thing? Now we sound old, bro. I hate it. Why do we sound old now?
Right.
And so, yeah, we were on the internet. I had the stylus. I'm like scrolling. And, I was like, yeah, I can do the internet. Organize my calendar in here too. Like, it was nerdy. I have to admit that. It was very geeky. But I'm in middle school. Everybody's like, yo, that's crazy. Like, what is that? And I'm just teaching people about it. So what happened was somebody asked me to buy it off of me. And I'm like, yo, I mean, I guess I would be willing to sell. So I went back to eBay and sold it for like $10 more. So instead of spending $50, I sold it for like $60. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get another one. Got that one for like $40. I got the Dell version. I remember my Dell one. It lit up this time. I had the backlight. Right. Yeah. Bro, my family is like, yo, where's he getting any of this from? Right. Like, he a scammer. Like, whole time I just had the gift card. Yeah, it's cool. And so, yeah, I played with that again, went online, sold it again for a profit. And I'm like, yo, this is profit. This is, even though it's $10, this is the definition of profit. After that, I bought a pack of like 5 headphones, Skull Candy headphones. Went to middle school and was like, I got them for 10 each. You trying to buy them? And at first it was slow. Nobody would like buy anything. Number 2, Cash App was not out at that time. It was cash only. So you had to have some money. Right. And I was trying to take people's lunch money and pay for these headphones. So eventually, after maybe like a few weeks, somebody was like, all right, bro, I need headphones. Mine just broke. Here's $10. Then they told their friend, and their friend. Things started to go like that. Moving, right. High school got crazy, which was really good. iPhone cases. We bought off of eBay for like $2.50, $5. was selling for like 15 each. At a certain point, we had teachers buying iPhone cases from us. Outer boxes were huge. We were buying for $20, selling for 40. At a certain point, y'all don't know this. My people in high school don't know this at all. You know, we used to buy the broken iPhones from them. I think it was like $50 maybe, cash. Me and my friends would come up. So it was me, Jeremy, DJ. I think Brandon has some part to play in it too. And we just buy $50 off you. Go to eBay, sell it for $350.
It's quite.
That's the definition of profit,
right?
Bro. That was like the moment. So it turned that $50 turned in. I think it was like, if I looked at the statements or something like that, it was like 10,000 in sales. Not pure profit, but it was like 10,000 in sales straight from that $50. And so, you know, I just was addicted to it. I love business, bro. I can't get away from it. Like, it's just a core piece of my identity. It honestly is. But I also love it because I was able to help people on one end, which is supply something that they truly needed, which was for us protecting your phone accessories. And I used to, like, at a certain point want to design my own cases, and it was just creative expression for me. But then after that, I was able to teach people how to make their own money. And so I just find business to be a double-edged sword that, like, I'm totally in love with. It's the most valuable thing I find in the world, if you do it correctly and are not corrupt. But the ability to just help people on both ends is just amazing to me. But that was the start,
right?
You know, middle school, headphones, and eBay.
For sure. That's a pretty good run, right? You start with a little gift card, and you get up, you're moving. What were like some of the steps after that? Did you go to school? Did you not go to school?
Yeah, which was funny. I don't know where I stopped selling it. I just think in college I wanted a fresh start.
Okay.
I feel like I could have probably made that into an official business. And you know, there were people that expressed that kind of disappointment that I did not continue with that when we were doing so well. But I wasn't in love. No, you know what? I just knew I could do bigger and better things. I'll say that. So I went to Howard, to the business school. I only applied to Howard, actually. I didn't want to go to college at all. I was forced, kind of, by my parents. But my thing was like, either I'm going to go to the school I really want to go to and be around the people I really want to be around, or not at all. And I'm kind of that like do or die type guy. Like, either I know what I want, either I'm going to get it, or I just don't want anything to do with anything like that. And so I actually got in, which was kind of crazy. I had a 2.999 GPA in high school. I didn't know.
Yeah, still, right?
God.
Right.
That was all God. So I got in Howard Business School, and the concentration was marketing. And School of Business was pretty intense. I mean, they had you wearing suits,
really?
Tuesdays and Thursdays, every week.
Wow.
Black suits, and they were like, we want straight corporate, straight business professional. You must wear a tie, must be tucked in, you must wear a belt, you must have shoes, polished, things like it was militant,
right?
But it was necessary. It's weird that it was necessary because I don't really like corporate atmospheres per se. I never aspired to be in a corporation at all. I aspired to build one, but not be in one. And they trained you to be in one. And so, you know that early on, but you have to decide if you're going to continue with that schooling or not, or their business programming, which literally they directly put you at Goldman and Deloitte and stuff like that from Howard School of Business. Like, if you're a Black individual, young Black man too, your chances of getting a high-paying job out of college through, if you want to go corporate, is through like School of Business at Howard. Direct access. But I wasn't in love with that corporate atmosphere, and it was pretty obvious that, like, even as a team leader in business school, which I had it now on a team of like 13 mentees or people that I trained. And we're all still cool today for the most part. I could do better at connecting with everybody, but we're also cool. I was bending the rules on a lot of things and like making them do things that had nothing to do with school of business and corporate training, but it was all about finding yourself and becoming yourself and becoming a better version of yourself, where the exercises I tried to make them do. Very unconventional. There are stories out there, myths.
Okay. Of things that you were having
about the exercises. One of my best guys, Russell, is he's like, man, you traumatized me.
I know.
Because by that time I was cutting hair.
Okay.
I didn't even, I guess, put that a part of the story.
That part of the story, yeah.
I had a wad of cash from cutting hair. It was only like $300. And I came to a meeting with my internal team. And I think this is pretty cool to put this on a podcast too. I had the internal team come, it was about 13 of them. And I was like, everybody stand up, line up against the chalkboard, turn and face the chalkboard. And I'm going to stand at the back of the room. And I had the wad of cash. And I say, you, number one, turn around. And I threw the wad of cash. Now, what I did with the wad of cash for the first half was put $1 bills on top and then the rest were 20s. Threw it at them. How much do you think it is? They stated the number. Throw it back to me. Turn around. And I threw it to the first half. How much? Second. Threw it back. So I got to the last 6. I put the 20s on top and then threw it to them at the last part. What we found, I said, do you see the difference? I said, how much do you think it is, 1 through 6? And you all said some low number, like $100. When I put the 20s on top, you 6 through 13 said, it might be $300, $500. Why? It's because I put the 20s on top. And I said, you always got to put your best foot forward. It's so unconventional. It's so unconventional. But I'm like, you see, like, you put your best stuff on top, present your best stuff. And even Ashton, sincere, like, he's out here in DC too, was like, yo, he told me like last year or 2 years ago, like, yo, that changed my thinking about things. I remember that for the rest of my life. Like, you taught me, like, put your 20s on top all the time. Like, that was just a line in their heads of like, nah, when you step out, like, come with it. And that was the thing. That was sort of some of the exercises. Just very unconventional things. Right.
But the irony of that is, as simplistic as it is, I mean, that's just the most important thing in life, right? Like, a lot of times it's these sayings or these phrases, right? They're very simplistic, but if you follow them, like, it's a key to a better life. Just it's all so simplistic though. Sometimes we can tend to overcomplicate things, or we need all these complicated theories to get things done. But something as simple as, put your 20s on top, put your best foot forward can make a whole lot of difference,
I think that's my thing. I want to avoid the complicated theory. Like, I can read code. I can look at math equations and kind of tell you what's going on. I'm pretty good at tech. I'm pretty smart in that field. It's not evident, right, that I can, like, deduce, like, the most complex equations. But, people, when you're talking, can't understand that. And so it's just very important that you make things make sense and communicate to be understood. Because I think at a certain point, when I was younger, I didn't really care to communicate to be understood. I was just like, man, you should respect me and care about what I'm saying anyway, and just listen. Like, I need people around me that just listen. But that's not the case. Like, it's just, we all have to do our part to communicate to be understood, and communicate until you're understood. And so, like, I'm just trying to practice that as much as possible.
Absolutely. Especially in sales, you realize, like, your prospect or your client's understanding of what you're saying to them and your attempt to help them. And that that process is the most important thing. And if you're not able to
Mm-hmm.
communicate effectively on, what you think or why they should be doing something, so much can be lost, right?
Yep.
Communication is super, super important. What are some things that you kind of focus on every day to become a more sharp marketer, a better person in general? What are like maybe, day-to-day schedule or things you kind of do like meditation or working out or anything like that? I'm not trying to call you. You're like, I don't do any of that.
I'm like, I could tell you what I could do. I'm just not consistent in any of them.
Gotcha. Do you have a daily schedule at all, or you kind of do it day by day?
Yeah, the lesson. Should we pause? I don't know whether to keep talking.
Yeah, no, you can.
Appreciate it. So I guess one of the things I do a lot of like self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tons of it. And I have to say, that's the one part that people honestly don't do.
Mm-hmm.
If you observe people, they are very confused. A lot of chaos here. And the way to kind of avoid that or get over the chaos and the questions and all the stress that's going on in your mind, one way of that is to meditate. And I would request people to, beyond meditation or in your meditation, or even if you don't want to meditate, is to self-reflect. Because when I was traveling years ago, I would be driving for like 4 hours every few days, 5 hours every few days. And I could even, at some point I drove like 15 hours from New Orleans to DC, straight shot. And I rested a little bit in between, but straight. There's nobody there to talk to. Like, there's literally nobody there to talk to. So the only people to talk to is you, God, and yourself again. And so I had the opportunity to just think about my actions in the past, present, and in the future. And I honestly say that has and always will be like my catalyst for growth is self-reflection. And I promise anybody who sits down in silence and self-reflects will ultimately become the best version of themselves and match their potential now. Because once you step out into the world, you're getting pitched to, advertised to, told about new ideas and told what you should be doing versus what you should not. So if you don't spend that moment or moments by yourself in self-reflection, you'll be confused for the rest of your life. So I think if I were to say one thing that's consistent throughout my life and throughout every day is like moments of self-reflection. Beyond that, I work out every once in a while.
Okay.
I'll read every once in a while.
Gotcha. I would say for the people who maybe have very hectic minds, right? They have thoughts that are hard to deal with. How do you self-reflect if you got a busy mind?
Silence. Honestly, for me, I don't see any other way. I think there are other ways. I don't see it. I personally just don't see it. Because when you sit in silence, it's scary at first. Why is it scary? It's because like now you're hearing your own self think.
Right.
You haven't had the chance to. You've been thinking for others this entire day, especially if you have an employer, right? You're thinking for somebody else the entire day. If you have clients, you're thinking on behalf of somebody else the entire day too. When you're in silence, ain't nobody there to talk to. Nobody's putting ideas in your head. Only you can put ideas in your own head from that moment. And so I would say moments of silence, or even if it's not silence, like some even toned, leveled music or something, but just moments by yourself. And let your thoughts run. Just let them go until you run out of thoughts. And when I was studying meditation, when I lived in DC, actually, like I was really like studying. Really studying. Even some of the monks I was trying to study and what they were doing. And I don't even know the technique, but literally it's a technique where you just sit in silence until you run out of thoughts. And like literally that meditation lasted me for days. I had peace of mind for days after that. because I just ran out of like more and more thoughts. I just stopped thinking and just started living in the moment. And that would be my only suggestion: silence or level music, and sit there until you run out of thoughts.
Mm-hmm. It's deep, but I think that's the tough part for people to do. It's like, because then you sit there, then you got to deal with all the thoughts you're thinking, yes. And then you got to try to work through them. But I guess just the act of just sitting with them. And I've had to work on that a ton, especially with meditation.
Are you meditating?
I do, but it's like every day, especially when I'm dealing with clients or I'm dealing with deals, there are new things that arise, right? So then I'm processing those thoughts. I'm trying to think about all these other things to do. And I think it just requires certain levels of discipline. You can, continuing to do it every day until you get to that point where it's easier. But I think it's always like work, right?
It's always going to be hard.
Right.
It's always, especially when you know that you could be doing better or that what you could be doing. And so now your thoughts are going to say, yo, why are you sitting here in silence when you could be doing X? And you have to fight that too.
100%.
But I promise you, the difference, well, in my life personally, when I do sit in that and I wait and I say, you know what, I am going to sit through this and I'm not going to go do X that I was thinking about. Like, why are you sitting there? You need to go do X. I'm actually not going to do X. I'm just going to continue to sit here. Or, and I don't want to just say sit, but you can like walk or like run, and that's your meditation too. But I'm going to sit here and not do anything. What I thought X was became Y, and Y was a better action to take next. I found, like, I might have woken up the next morning and been like, oh, X was already taken care of. You didn't need to do that. It's like, dang, why did I do that? I was just panicking, and I just thought I needed to do it. And so I'm like this, I'm chaotic. But when I sat in that until I discovered X is not the right thing to do, but Y is. Y was a way better strategic move. And so like, that's why the wisest will always win. And even those people who just are quiet and methodical about their actions will ultimately pretty much win. And you might look out from like an external view and be like, man, that's a boring life, or that's a boring guy, or something like that. But they're so methodical, they might end up the wealthiest out of anybody, because their moves are so thoughtful, so strategic. And sometimes they ultimately will not ever be the wealthiest because they don't go off to go do the why. But I'm going to say right now, though, it's just being thoughtful in your actions will go such a long way. And like, just wait. Sometimes you don't need to take immediate action. Sometimes it's a waiting game.
Be still, right?
Yeah,
being still. It's a skill to cultivate, and something I think you can enjoy once you do. I think it's something that we're all working on continually. Life is definitely a journey. With all that said, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to overcome?
You getting into the deep questions? Okay, Mr. Podcast.
No, you're hitting us with some good stuff. So I'm like, now you got my mind going. I'm like, I don't think I've ever asked you that.
What's the hardest thing I had to overcome?
Mm-hmm.
Being myself. I think, again, like, I've been blessed enough by God to literally be put through some trouble and some difficult decision making. And I don't want to say like I don't have a hard life. I never had a hard life. Like, I can clearly look outside and see like other people that might have more difficult decision making to do. Mm-hmm. But I found it interesting that as I in life go through something and have to make a difficult decision, that someone calls me very like in a short amount of time thereafter to ask me about that a similar or same situation that they're going through. And I'm like, hey, I just been through that. What I'm finding is that decisions to be yourself or not, or to act on your convictions or not, is the true test. And that has been the most difficult thing that I think not only I have had to overcome, but I think the human experience has to overcome, is that thinking of like, am I right or wrong? And like, because it came from me and my heart and my mind, is it right to the external world? And I don't want to make it a difficult concept to understand, because it's really not. But it's just, when you wake up, are you really going to say what's on your mind in that moment and not go back home and complain about it? You don't have to be rude about it, but are you going to say what's truly on your mind? Are you truly going to speak up for yourself when it's time? And there may be some things too that may be counter to how you grew up, or like counter to like your family's lifestyle or to your friend's lifestyle, right? And these are, say that's your core group, but nobody does that. Are you still going to do it? And I just think like overcoming that thinking constantly is a constant battle. And I would say that's probably the biggest hurdle or thing that I have overcome or am still working to overcome. It's just waking up every day to be myself. And I guess I want to just mention the concept of, I actually found it from a TV show. I think it was some Shots Fired.
Is that a new show or is that?
It's really old. It got cut off after like one season.
Okay.
It had Sanaa Lathan. Is that her name?
Sanaa Lathan. I think that's someone.
Yeah. Look good.
You
can cut that out.
But yeah, we'll beat that.
We're a Googler. But the guy on there, the guy just said, like, you know what? I'm old now. I'm a 24-hour person. I wake up and go to sleep the same person. I don't deviate, bro. If the world could do that, the world would be a little bit different. If everybody could just wake up and be themselves from the start of the day to the end of the day. But we're constantly battling, whether to be something for someone else all the time. And I think that's the human experience. I don't really know to go from there, but
what do you think the I guess why do you think we're here? What do you think the purpose of life is? What do you think the point of life is?
I don't know.
Yeah. It's an honest answer.
I mean, so many people have so many ideas and concepts about it. I honestly won't know until I get into the older age. I will say, like, one of the things is big for me is one, legacy. Because when you look at time, like the earth has been here for millions of years. It's kind of crazy. So that means our life, is just like a speck of sand on a beach. It's literally that tiny of a thing in a large spectrum of the earth's existence. And so we're a little less important than we all think. That's what I believe. And so that just means like your life should become a vessel for something meaningful to leave behind for the next speck of sand, right? To capture. And so I think the definition changes for each one of us as to why we are here. Personally, I want to be here to, one, give reverence to God, too, because that has been my core source of like inspiration and creativity. And I just follow what I hear or the dreams that I might have and that divine inspiration, and it always ends up well. And then secondary, like legacy, like building a strong family structure is very important to me. Not now, but in the future.
You gotta give some time.
Give it some time. But then other than that, it's, I want to use business I want to be a vessel of business, right? To provide value for the world. So I think the definition changes per person, but I really want people to understand, like, we're a speck of sand. We're a little less important than we think we are. So know that, like, we're here for X amount of time. Pass something passed through you, some knowledge, some wisdom, so that it can go to someone else.
You're an insightful dude, man.
Your face. I'm just like, hopefully I ain't say nothing wrong.
No. I'm listening. My face, well, I'll have that like blank face. I always got to tell people like I'm
That's
listening
that trickery.
To you, right? No, I'm soaking it all in. This was a great episode, dude. It's definitely a pleasure to have you today. I think you shared a lot of gems with the audience. They'll definitely be able to take away. If they want to get in touch with you or reach out to you for some of your services, how do they do
Yeah,
that?
for sure. One, you can email me at Tim at statusbranding.com. You can visit our website, of course, statusbranding.com. And we're building out our next iteration under worldofstatus.io of a website, and you can see some of the NFTs that we're launching as well. So Instagram too would be an option, and that's fairly simple, tim.jrobertson.
Awesome. Well, Tim, thank you again for coming on. It was my absolute
man.
pleasure to have you. It's good to see you again. It's been a minute.
It's been such a long time.
It's been a while. I think it's almost been like 2 years, like pre-COVID,
I'm
right?
very sure, bro.
Yeah.
COVID has wiped it all out.
Right. But it's definitely good to see your face. Yeah, we can. We got how much? So I'll cut it right there, and then we can always add this in. So we got 16 minutes. So yeah, in regards to the podcast, this is supposed to be. Honestly, it's supposed to kind of like be like a living room vibe. Have business people on here, but it's not like how much money do you make, it's not that typical podcast vibe. It's like, it's something new. So if you're a beginner or if you're older, you can still watch and you want to be kind of captivated by the stories people will tell and really get to know entrepreneurs on a core level. Most of the people I've had on here, like, DMV based or somewhat tied into DC. So I think this is like almost like a great platform for us to all get to know people who are, it's important that they're known, but maybe like, I know this person, but you don't know them. So it's like, now we're like, oh, now I need to connect with Tim. I need something. I'm going to hit up Tim, or I need something. I'm going to message Caleb or all the other people I have on here. So I have some crypto guys coming on. And then the other side, I think I've just always had a dream. Like I always wanted to get in media, right? Like I love this stuff, but I'm like forcing myself to do real estate all the time. But I'm like, let me just start.
You belong in front of these things.
I'm trying to get like you, dude. You honestly, this was the best podcast we filmed. As you were like, it helped me be calm as well too, because I was like, the not to get too granular, but all of like the small clips that we'll get from this, I think just like all of the information you actually provided is going to be so insightful for people.
I'm happy.
Yeah,
I'm happy to help. I guess I need to be doing the same thing. I know I need to be. This was fun for me.
Beautiful.
This was good for me. Yeah, I do feel like kind of sometimes locked up, like you said, like in the office, and it's like, oh, can I?
Yeah,
this
you
one?
can say whatever.
Sometimes I just be like, man, like I gotta get out. Like this is too much computer.
Right.
So I think this is an appropriate way to like get out, especially what's on your mind or like some of the insights that you might have had. Even for you, bro, like for you to come on here and just sit in front of here and just blurt something out and then just cut it up. Yeah, that's pretty smart.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And honestly, when I first had the podcast, I thought of you because I'm thinking like we've had some super interesting conversations, but it's like no one else got to enjoy that, or like because we like
that's
when
it is.
When we're talking, you got something from it, I got something from it, but somebody might be watching and got something totally different from it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like creating a space where like we're having the conversations anyway, right? Like we're growing. You're going to look back at this like 20, 30 years from now and be like, that's how I was thinking then, from your, your Malibu mansion or wherever you're camped out, right? Just we can all kind of see our growth. And I hope to have you on, like hope to have on everyone just like as the years go by and we can just kind of see how we grow, you know?
I think again, like it's appropriate, especially for the time. I mean, just so you know too, like just from our research, like Spotify too is the most trusted company right now, apparently
in the world,
like brand.
Wow.
I'm not sure in the world. I know in America.
Okay.
And their audience, like podcast audiences, are privy to advertisements. They trust the ads that come from podcasts up to like 80% more or something like that. It's some outrageous number. Podcasts
is the amount that advertisers will give podcast hosts, I guess also equally larger.
I ain't even peep. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even think people are really advertisers really looking at podcasts as like advertising. I think it might have been easier to do radio at a certain point because the industry was built around media planning. So media planning is a job position at like advertising agencies. to just make connects with like TV One, Radio One. Radio One then says, hey, we have a syndication. We have 100 radio shows across the country. Give me $100,000. We'll advertise across all 100. Podcast is like, you kind of got to do your own research as to where you should be placing your ads on whose podcast, and then research who's doing the podcast, like, you know, the host. And it's really not syndicated, so it's harder for the ad dollars to get into there. And I think if they rebuilt the industry, or there was a pipeline to make it easier to go from advertisers large amounts of funds to a set amount of podcasts, then you might see a larger influx. But right now, the system's not set up to do that.
I know that they have a lot of smaller stuff where I'm not sure. I haven't gotten into all the weeds of it because I've just been trying to focus on more like the art of it. And I'll kind of figure out the numbers as I go. I have somewhat of an idea, but I didn't want to overbear it. And then, you know, when you make something too businessy and you're like, no, I don't know if I can do it anymore.
You don't even got to do that no more.
You're right. But I know some of like the bigger podcasts, the amount they're getting, and that's probably it. They're swallowing up the large portion, and maybe the middle is less kind of touched by those dollars, but a lot of money in podcasts. I think Joe Rogan got like
$100 million. He don't got to play basketball.
Like, anything, right?
He got to talk, bro.
That's it. And he's interesting, and he just like vibes with his podcast host, and
he belongs there for sure.
Yeah, he's a good character.
But $100 million is a lot.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
That really, if you're gonna pay someone 100, how much do you think they're gonna make off of that?
Right. That's a very good point. But what a business model, right? You make $100 million to get to talk to people that you probably wouldn't have been able to talk to if you weren't a podcast host, right? But plus you get to talk to them, be friends with them. Plus they pay you $100 million.
Yo, are these on? This on?
Yeah, no, it's on. We're still on. We're still filming. We got 10 more minutes on the clock.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you our plan that's being formulated. There's a lot of kinks and bugs to get out, but like I have pages of. I'm still writing. Like once I get back to the hotel, like I'm at my computer again. Okay. And consider this too for what you're doing. Publishing, digital publishing. The margins are outrageous.
What is digital publishing?
Thank you. Everybody asks that, and I love it. And I love to start with headlines. So now I got you to ask the question. Right. Digital publishing is fairly simple. It's made up of publishers and advertisers. Let's start there. It's just two. Let's just start with two basic concepts. Advertisers. Pick a Nike, okay? Publishers are pretty much blogs or apps. Wherever there's media, they're considered a publisher. Advertiser says, I want to put my, Nike says, I want to put my shoes out there. But these are like lighting up green. And so it's kind of futuristic. I need to reach a futuristic audience. And so there's this in-between space where a person just, like a media planner, just says, all right, these are the blogs, the apps, the podcasts, the everything dealing like that has these futuristic like readers and audiences. And let me take your money and just put it there. Now, let me not just take the money and just put ads there, but let me do this. Let me write an article on the future of shoes and top 5 futuristic shoes, and let me plug your Nike shoe in there for that particular blog. On Snapchat, let me make some Snapchat stories just showcasing like some cool shoes and not make it a Nike advertisement, but I just want to feature those shoes to feature to that audience. So it's kind of masked advertisements. And the way it's like product placement in the right places.
Genius.
Yeah.
I noticed that with Tasty, and not to cut you, but
no,
I remember
please.
that a couple of years ago. I remember Tasty would like highlight these restaurants, but I'm like, they're doing it so well. Like I had a feeling like this is some covert. You ever heard of like the idea like psyops? You know, like they're, you know, it's information you're getting, but it's supposed to trigger behavior in one way or another, right? And it appears as if it's valid, and almost like you go on Twitter and you say, oh, like this crypto is up, but really it's to get everyone to buy in so they can pump, and one can pump and one can dump. And it's just like, you see how much smarter the marketing gets over time. And it's like, it doesn't even appear as a commercial, right?
Yeah.
But carry on.
That's,
Sorry about
but that's, you have it. That's pretty much publishing. The amount of money that it attracts from the advertisers is humongous because of syndication. Again, me owning, now if I'm a publisher, what I would do is own 10 blogs. Let me backtrack real quick and make it simpler. If I had a political campaign, if somebody had a political campaign and they like, I'm now a Trump supporter and I want to reach Republicans, they like, yo, the audience is on Fox News. But then you have a Democratic one, they want to use CNN. But syndication is when one company owns both CNN and Fox. So the Republican and the Democratic Party pays me, so I could then distribute it to whatever network is appropriate, whatever audience is appropriate. But it's all ran by one person. That's where the money comes in, is syndication. It's owning mounds of media outlets and then attracting the advertising dollars and then saying, I'm going to point your advertising dollars where the audience fits best. Publishing. And then you have so many different media formats. Again, like I said, like apps, you have blogs, you have Snapchats, you have influencer stories you can tap and pay for. Like publishing, digital publishing is just tapping into media formats and making pretty much like plugging products into those.
Seamlessly. I think we kind of like live in that world now, like to an extent, you know? We kind of live in a, not like everything is somewhat of an advertisement, right? Like I always say, like modern day culture is somewhat of like a robbing of like the society's self-esteem, and then the offer for them to purchase it back through luxury items and all of these like other commodities that they maybe need or don't need. And it's interesting to kind of see it all play out, right? Yeah. But that's just kind of the way the society is.
You know, I got a concept that I want to run by you after we get done recording.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear
about how it works, right? About that, like somewhat dealing with like advertising and marketing. But you know, the most important part, people say like value and things like that, but you know, the most important part is not to stuff anything down anybody's face. And that's why I think education will help us to win, and I think it will help others to win. And so if you have that top 5 futuristic shoes article, you could be like you're exposing others to other brands besides the product that you're trying to market, but you kind of just plug yours in there as well as an option, as a contender. And I actually think that's not that harmful unless it just doesn't fit the bill, unless it's just not quality. But if it fits the bill, like you're helping people discover their options.
100%. And you're doing it in like an authentic way. I've been writing a little ebook, and I've been writing about that. Like the best thing to possibly do in sales is just be authentic enough. To be authentic enough, you just need a certain level of quality. But I think there's just so much advertisement that unless it's like super kind of covert, as we're talking about, unless there's just that level of authenticity and that information and that exchange, it's going to be hard to really reach prospects or reach a customer, because they're just, everything is an advertisement.
Yeah, and we now see right through it.
Right.
I don't like when I see, it's not my clients, but I see like other people's clients run their campaigns like we're back in like AOL age.
Like that email's not gonna work. I'm not gonna click it.
Like, damn, you really gonna say that? Like, buy now, purchase now. Okay, hold on. I don't know you, brother. Like, people want to be engaged. But that's why I think anybody that's a participant and wants to pour their heart and convictions into their product should sell luxury or have a luxury option as a product, as a part of their product offering, because so many people just want to manufacture but not craft something. And if you're willing to craft something, you know, charge more for it. And there is a select group, your loyalists, that will always like really ride with you and always purchase it from you. Money is relative. Cost is relative, bro. Everybody got more money than you think. You know, and I have to tell my young entrepreneurs that, Because I'm like, man, I don't want to charge this amount. That's scary. That's the tip of the iceberg. Like that's what I have to pay now in expenses. Is what I used to have to charge, and it's just weird because I'm like, when I was years ago, I'm just like, yo, they're gonna say no. Like this is too much, man. Everybody will spend their money on what they think is worth it. Make that thing worth, like make yourself, your company, or your product worth spending money on, and that's it.
100%. And to add on to that, a lot of times we don't realize that the money may not, like the concept that someone else has of money may be very different to yours. So again, you're thinking, oh, they're not going to do this, or these dollar amounts matter. And the whole time they're really 10 times more focused on the service or just their level of peace sometimes, or the ease of the process. So it's definitely important to change that thinking and say, okay, what value am I providing, and what's a fair thing for me to charge for that value? And then just being okay with it. You're going to get some clients, and then some other ones you're not going to get.
You don't need them if you can't get them.
Right. You go
That's how I look at it.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. You killed that, bro. We're done. Bro, we're done on time. He's gonna Selchuk. You can just cut it off when we're in the last like however many 10 seconds of this, and we can kind of just like drone on, and I'll just use this as like kind of like sound bits. But dude, it was such a pleasure to have you, bro. Yeah, this is my favorite one so far.
Yo,
yeah,
thank you.
This is my favorite one.
Thank you for having me on. Yo, you're gonna do well.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I mean, and I guess the last part of what I was talking about publishing is that funny story is that we tried to. It's this Black-owned agency in New York, and they're killing it. And we had the opportunity. I thought he was a small, just like a developer. You know, he has 30 employees.
Oh wow.
He's huge. He's a big company, or technically medium. And so basically, we had this big Comcast project, and I'm like, yo, can your company maintain it? And it was like, we got this budget here for this. He like, bro. He like, yo, thank you for telling me that. You know, I was once where you were, but that's not what we charge. Bro. He told me the number. I said, what the hell?
How much do they charge? Selchuk, we're cut, right?
Okay. Oh, good.